Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. The ECCB Governor suggests a VAT increase as one solution to St. Lucia's economic challenges. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 2nd August 2022. Details when we return.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Increasing St. Lucia's value-added tax, VAT, is among the measures suggested to improve government's fiscal situation and cushion the impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The recommendation comes from the Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Timothy Antoine. Don Nicholas of the DBS News World has more.
St. Lucia's 12.5% VAT rate is said to be among the lowest in the region. Some countries are at 15%, while others are at 17%. Given the harsh economic times, recommendations that the local VAT rate be reviewed have been endorsed by Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Governor Timothy Antoine.
I think it has to be reviewed. The timing of the adjustment is to be looked at because, of course, we're in the middle of a challenge with inflation. So what is the right time to do that?
As pointed out by the governor, at the end of the day, the government needs to sustain itself. He used the analogy of standard flight emergency instructions, which urge passengers to put on their oxygen mask first before attempting to help others, to make the point that the government has to put its fiscal house in order before assisting citizens, even if that involves increasing revenue or cutting expenditure, or both.
And typically it's a combination that is required to get the appropriate adjustment. So I do think it needs to be reviewed and a determination made of what is the appropriate level. And if a determination is made to change it, what is the right time to make that change?
The governor is hoping that the government will take note. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
Meanwhile, still in St. Lucia, former National Security Minister Herman Gill Francis has suggested the introduction of a local version of a program that has enjoyed success in St. Kitts and Nevis. The Peace Program, as it is called, discourages a return to a life of crime by targeting former inmates and at-risk youth, among others.
On Wednesday, Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Governor Timothy Antoine referred to a peace program tried and tested in St. Kitts and Nevis, in which former gang members, youth at risk, and released inmates were given finances to start businesses. The program also certifies the participants, all in an effort to help them obtain gainful employment and discourage a return to a life of crime.
It's a significant investment. I think it's funded through the Citizenship and Investment Program. But that peace initiative has resulted in a significant drop in crime.
Former National Security Minister Herman Gill Francis is in full support of this. He believes that since it has been tried and tested in St. Kitts and Nevis with a good success rate, the same can be achieved in St. Lucia.
When we are doing things and we say, well, this country has done that and this country has done that, we have to look at the success stories of countries. So St. Kitts, and as the governor said, seem to be working. Yes, let us why not try this one? And I don't have a problem with that.
Unemployment, the former minister asserts, is a problem, and criminals will use unscrupulous means to obtain finances. For the DBS News World, I am Don Nicholas.
Over in Antigua, the health ministry there is reminding the public to remain on alert for COVID-19 and monkeypox virus, even as carnival festivities intensify. The ministry says if you are experiencing symptoms of either disease, you're advised to avoid attending physical gatherings and follow the advice provided by the health ministry. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Rhonda Seeley-Thomas shared the advice during an interview with ABS News on Wednesday last.
We want persons to be aware that COVID is still a pandemic. We still have cases in Antigua and Barbuda, and we want persons to remain vigilant and protect themselves and others. If you're ill, if you have symptoms of COVID-19, fever, or cough, you should stay at home and not mix with persons. You should wear a face mask as, if you can, depending on the situation. And we're also asking persons as much as they can to distance themselves from persons when they can. We would have issued something on monkeypox. That's another viral disease. It's spread by close contact, hugging, kissing, and also from respiratory aerosols. So persons, some of the same things that we've put in place for COVID-19 or advised for COVID-19, we're encouraging people to do those same things. Avoid close contact, wear a mask if you can, avoid hugging and kissing persons, avoid sharing utensils, clothing, drinks. Those are things that will facilitate the spread. In addition to that, persons should also get vaccinated. Going back to COVID-19, we still have vaccines available. We have Pfizer that's expiring.
We turn our attention now to Trinidad and Tobago, where former Attorney General Lawrence Maraj says the ruling by the Privy Council, Trinidad and Tobago's highest court of appeal, allowing all murder accused to be able to apply for bail, is very good development of the law. The former Attorney General also says the public can trust the courts to exercise discretion in granting bail. Former AG Maraj was responding to questions from TV6's political editor Jewel Brown on Friday last.
TV6 News spoke with Senior Counsel and former Attorney General Ramesh Lawrence Maraj via telephone on Friday to get his perspective on Thursday's ruling by the Privy Council in the case of the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago versus Achille Charles, that all murder accused in the Twin Island Republic can apply for bail.
To me, it's a very welcome decision in regard to the provisions of the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago.
Former Attorney General Maraj then referenced something the Privy Council had referred to in its judgment on Thursday, the case Krishandath Sinanan versus the state, which was decided by the local Court of Appeal. Mr. Maraj represented Mr. Sinanan.
The minority judgment was in my favor. The majority judgment was against me. And the minority judgment held that a person charged for murder was entitled to get bail. That was a case decided at the time on a trial for murder, and it did not go to the Privy Council. So I have always believed that the laws of Trinidad and Tobago entitle individuals who are charged for murder to be able to get bail.
In a statement on Thursday, the Office of the Present Attorney General, Senior Counsel Reginald Amor, said the Privy Council's ruling highlights and accepts further some fundamental considerations that have been previously espoused by the government on the issue of bail, with one of them being that there is a concern that the courts have been too liberal in granting bail to repeat offenders. Former Attorney General Maraj expressed confidence in the judiciary where any applications for bail by those charged with murder are concerned.
So I think it is a very good development of the law, and I think the judiciary is given the omnipotent power to determine whether a person should be given bail or not. And I think the public can trust the judiciary in the exercise of that discretion, because there are many factors which a court must consider before it could grant bail.
TV6 News sought to find out from Senior Counsel Maraj whether he sought to address the issue of bail for those charged for murder while he served as Attorney General during the 1995 to 2000 UNC administration.
No. When I was Attorney General, this issue did not come up as a question of law reform at all. At that time, we were concerned with the implementation of the death penalty. And a lot of my time with respect to the death penalty was concerned with the implementation of it.
The former Attorney General also wanted to clarify that there is no automatic right to bail.
What the Privy Council decided is that the High Court has a discretion to grant bail. And that discretion has to be exercised in accordance with certain factors. For example, some of the factors would mean that if the person is a repeat offender and if the person would be a danger to society and things like that. So it is not an automatic right to bail. It's a right which depends upon the exercise of the discretion of a judge or a discretion of the Court of Appeal in any given matter.
Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
There is a call for more focus on agriculture and road repairs in the upcoming budget. That call is coming from the Confederation of Regional Business Chambers in Trinidad and Tobago. It's also calling for collaboration and transparency from the government. 2 executive members of the Confederation spoke with TV6 News on Friday. Nicole M. Romani has that story.
Coordinator of the Confederation, Jai Leader Singh, says he wants more support for families in need and proper remedial and infrastructural work done to treat with deplorable road conditions. He further notes the drawn-out process for business persons to receive outstanding payments.
To pay off of VAT returns and also to pay contractors monies owed, because these companies are suffering and paying interest upon interest on their overdraft debt and on their defaulted loans. But importantly too, government must also try to use that money to support the vulnerable and the social assistance that families do need, but also assist them to walk the road of self-sufficiency. And I will also want to make a plug here that funds need to be allocated to develop our crumbling road infrastructure.
Mr. Leela Singh wants a more collaborative relationship with the government moving forward. He says, too often, businesses are given lip service and empty promises.
The longer they delay the procurement legislation, the longer they find excuses why it cannot be done, are affecting their credibility, the government's credibility. They are not building any confidence-building measures, nor are stressing the word transparency-building measures. We want, in the private sector, want a predictable relationship with the government.
Also speaking with TV6 was Vice Chairman of the Confederation of Regional Business Chambers, Ricardo Mohammed, who said, they are open to talks with the government, but it seems like the same thing repeats every campaign cycle. Adding, what is needed is more realistic approaches to budgetary promises. Mr. Mohammed reiterated to government to prioritize food security.
We need to see a lot of funding going into different sectors, such as the agriculture sector, whereby it's going to help us as a country to ease on some of our food burden of food costs that we are currently experiencing due to, according to many of the articles written, due to the war in Ukraine and Russia, that we are looking at a global food catastrophe.
He said, it's time for us to aim toward first world status for Trinidad and Tobago and set proper goals, which are both realistic and achievable in a timely manner. Nicole M. Romani, TV6 News.
Cleverston Haynes, Barbados' central bank governor, says the government's recent measures to alleviate the stress brought on by the high cost of living may be the best approach thus far.
As he reported that the Barbados economy grew by 10.5% for the first 6 months of the year on Wednesday, Governor Haynes cautioned that increasing wages is not a good idea for the still recovering economy.
The government will have to make some very difficult choices in order to be able to facilitate an increase in wages, trying to chase prices through wage increases. I think most economists will tell you that that is not really a good idea. What the government is trying to do, which I think is perhaps more recommended, is try to be more targeted in some of the relief it can provide to those who are going to be most impacted by what we hope is a temporary rise in the cost of living. In other words, eventually we hope that oil prices will start to taper off, which means that transportation costs, electricity costs, and so on will start to come down. That what is happening as it relates to food, that will also begin to repair itself, not necessarily in 2022, but hopefully in the near future. So we have to be careful not to try to apply a balm to what may be a quote-unquote temporary situation. Obviously, temporary shocks can get built in and become permanent, but the solution off the top is not necessary to be addressed through wage increases.
Meanwhile, government is hoping to whet the appetite of investors and boost confidence in the economy with the rollout of the proposed Barbados Optional Savings Scheme Plus investment bonds by the end of August. While some economists suggest that it will be a difficult sell, given that investors are not comfortable following the debt restructuring process in 2018, Governor Haynes suggests the bonds are a good investment.
As the economy starts to grow again, which is a critical aspect, you're beginning to see the debt to GDP ratio revert on the downward path that it had begun. That is an important indicator. You look at the stock of reserves which the country has been able to accumulate over the last few years. That should also give persons some comfort, and to recognize that the new instruments will also provide new investment opportunities. We're all complain of how low the interest rates in our banking system are. So therefore, this also provides investment opportunities for individuals to be able to get income flow from their funds. So for us, it's going to be a learning curve in terms of what do people actually want, but what we would like to see is for an increase in take-up by the private sector.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.